Welcome in, everyone, to the Blue Demon Room podcast. DePaul Athletics is so excited to be bringing you stories of the student athletes, coaches, and alumni here at DePaul. I'm your host, Casey Standahar, and I'm thrilled to be joined by our very next guest on the podcast here today is DePaul alum and men's soccer coach, Mark Plotkin. Plotty, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Great, thanks for coming on. It still feels weird calling you Plotty, but everybody calls you that, so I felt like I wanted to be in on the trend.
Yeah, when I came in, it was like my first day as the head coach, and I met with the team, and I was like, am I going to make them call me coach or Plotty? And I was just like, everybody in that building calls me Plotty, so if it makes you guys feel better and kind of eases the tension, you guys can all just
I
call
love
me
it.
that.
Yes, you've been described as a chill coach, and we like that. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Of course.
In our first episode, we had Michelle O'Brien, the women's soccer coach, on, and we asked her about whether or not she likes playing right under the L. So I got to get your thoughts first. Do you like it? Yeah. Advantages, disadvantages? What do you think?
I actually love it. I think it just creates like an amazing environment for our team because we're so used to it. When I was a player here, I still remember we were playing against West Virginia, and like a corner kick was happening, and I was walking with the guy I was defending, and he just looked at me and goes, does that train go by like all the time? And I was like, oh yeah, the whole game. And so you just kind of know like it's a little bit of a competitive edge, and I think if you embrace it and love it and just like think the world of it, I definitely really love it. Just walking out there, just like it adds a different like a sound to it, a noise to it. It creates an environment and an atmosphere where some places I've been, it's just been super quiet and you have to create the energy.
Sure.
Whereas like the train going by, the people cheering for you at practice on the L, like it makes it a pretty fun place to be able to play.
It's very Chicago.
It's very Chicago.
Love it. You're 6 games into the season now. How are you feeling so far about your team's performance?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I think like our guys would definitely say that they've been disappointed in some moments, but I think they'd be super proud in some moments. I think that's part of the beginning of the season when you're kind of feeling yourself out. It doesn't help to take some injuries to a few of your captains, but I think a few of our younger guys have really stepped up and played some vital roles in some games and have done well and showed like we have the potential to do it. And I think we're on track now where we're getting some guys back, and the guys are excited about the freshness of Big East play where everyone's 0-0, and we really have our goal now of just making it to the playoffs and making a good run from here.
Sure. You have a history with DePaul too. This is your 7th year as head coach, and you went here, you played on the soccer team. What changes have you seen with this program since you were here in 2010? Yeah,
I mean, I think you see like the evolution of just college athletics in general and the evolution of the Big East. When I was here, it was 16 teams, it was 2 divisions. We were traveling all over the place down to Florida, and then we were flying up to New York City. So I think it's a lot more, you can count on where this league is going and what this league is, and I think we're a really sustainable place to be. And so I think it's allowed us to create great rivalries within the conference and to create buzz in the big cities. And I think like with basketball kind of leading the way and creating like a great kind of footprint for us, it's going to show when everybody looks at it. It's like, wow, the soccer conference is like just as good as the basketball conference. Right. So it's definitely seeing how the conference has developed, and then also just like here internally, like I can't believe how different this place looks now.
Yeah.
From when I was here as a student athlete, when I was on my recruiting visit, to seeing like 3 different versions of Wish Field, even with 3 different turfs, and now the stands were built like just after I graduated, to now everything that this place looks like inside. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, literally internally, inside where we're at right now, and just all the facilities. How does that help with recruiting and just making an overall presence for DePaul soccer? Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Like I tell a story and joke around about how, we shared a locker room with all the other teams. And I'm a positive person, so I was trying to find a positive spin on things. So I would always just kind of make a story about like, you're not siloed with your own team in your own locker room, only ever being in there. Like you actually get to meet the other student athletes and like the kind of families Good
and
spin.
kids. They would love that. But now being able to show them these things and have them hear the words "wow" every time we walk a recruit around here is something that we haven't felt before, and I don't think this program has felt before. So now it really gives us grounds to really go after some elite level talent where we can wow them with our facilities, but we can still hold true to the core that we are, which is just being great people, being great teammates, and having the right values.
I'm sure returning back to your alma mater to coach a team comes with its set of challenges, maybe a bit of pressure. So what for you has been the most rewarding part of that, and what's been the difficult part?
Yeah, I think like for me, like no one's harder on myself or harder on me than myself. No one wants this program to win more than me. I lived it. I live it every single day. And so for me, it's like, it's what outside of my family, like this is the most important thing to me. And so it's what I'm constantly thinking about. So like that has definitely been a challenge and an adjustment where I used to I played here because I loved it. And then from afar, I was just observing the program, just like cheering it on as a fan. But now when you're in the swing of it and like this is what you do, there's just a lot more pressure to it. But
sure.
I love it because I can do something about it. Whereas in some cases, like you can't do something about it. But now we get the challenge of kind of molding it into the level that we want this to be, molding young men into great people, and continuing to hone in on kind of the traditional college experience that I had when I was here, which was, really talking to these guys about embracing the bonds that they get with their teammates, because at the end of the day, those are kind of the things and the stories that they remember later on in life. Yes, we want to win. We want to be Big East champions. We want to be in the NCAA tournament. That stuff is all really important. But if we don't embrace the process and how hard it is to get there and the hard work we're going to go through to get there, then what is this all for?
Sure. You mentioned how much you love it. You've been with DePaul for a while. So what is it about DePaul that makes you want to stick around?
It's just the family feel that is this place. And I think like the underdog mentality and the fact that like we haven't been, a perennial top 25 program. Like I've lived my life with a chip on my shoulder. I was a younger brother of the all-star soccer player who was like #1 recruit in the country, like Big Ten Player of the Year, national champion, pro, all this stuff. And so I was always the kid just coming in behind, just kind of like making his way. And so I envisioned just that being us, and I've kind of put my heart into this program to be, that's who we're going to be. We always want to have the strongest team, the most hardworking team out there. I think that's really what's going to get us to the point of really competing at a national level.
Hey, you haven't always been behind. In 2007, you guys won the Big East tournament. So besides winning that, what makes that experience so memorable and the experiences you've had since then?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just like walking the halls and still seeing like the same people that are here from when I was a student athlete here, like Kate O'Brien upstairs, Jill Hollenbeek, Mike Lenty down in facilities, Blair, RJ, like all of these guys that are you still seeing around, really make this place special. And this place feels like home to me. And when I came to school here, you were leaving home and like I'm from Naperville, so I'm 45 minutes away, so it's not that far.
Not too far.
But this place just became like my second home, and like the people that you could look to for help and look to for support. And that's one thing that I've always loved about DePaul is that we've always kept that at our core. Like as college athletics has become this big business thing, we've kind of been we've been moving towards that, but we haven't really forgetting about the identity that is DePaul, which is we care about our student athletes, we care about the people that we're helping to develop. Sure. And I felt that, and now it's kind of my duty now to give back and give that experience to our kids as well.
And you come from a close-knit group of alumni, so what's it like having those guys involved in the program? They come back, and how does that help the whole process when you welcome new Blue Demons here?
No, it is really cool. I have a picture on my desk that I point at with every single recruit, and in it, it's me on my wedding day. And aside from like my brother and my 2 high school soccer best friends, every single person in the photo, it's like 8 or 9, maybe even 10 guys are all DePaul soccer players.
Love that.
And so I just kind of talked to them a lot about like, this is the experience that I hope you guys can have, because this is like the amazing experience that I had when I was here.
Speaking of your wedding day, it was here at DePaul that you met your wife, Kristen.
Yes.
How'd you guys meet?
So we had he'll kind of kill me for telling this, but one of my teammates had a little bit too much fun in the dorms. And so the university asked him to leave the dorms for a year.
We're not going to say any names.
Yep, I won't say his name. He knows who he is. But a random person was then placed in with my best friends in their on-campus apartment.
Okay.
And that person wound up, there were a couple people hanging out at, our friend's house, and he was like, hey, I'm going to invite a couple of my friends. And I was like, okay, cool, like, that's fine. And then in walked Kristen. And so then we just kind of like, I was actually, the funny story is like, I was sitting in the middle of the room playing Call of Duty in a gamer chair, which like is not me at all.
This isn't who I am.
It was my friend's chair, and it was my turn to play Call of Duty, so I was sitting there when she walked in. And I remember like seeing her around school,
Sure.
like she was in the business school, and so was I. So I would like see her in the cafeteria, and I was like, oh, that girl's like kind of cute. And then all of a sudden she walked into the room, and I was like, oh, wow.
So do you thank your former player now that got kicked?
All the time. Yeah. We were like, without you two, like we would have never met.
He
So
set
like,
it
thank
up.
you for having a little bit too much fun, on the winter break to allow us to now be able to meet.
I love it. That probably made for a good wedding speech, right?
Yeah. It was, a friend of ours actually was the officiant, and he told the story.
That's cool.
During it. Yeah.
That's great. If anyone attends a home match at Wish Field, they probably see your daughter Zoe run up to you.
Yeah.
What has it been like raising a daughter in this family atmosphere in the Chicagoland area?
It's just amazing. I mean, even after like a tough loss, just watching her run out on the field and come after you, it just kind of puts everything into perspective. Sure. And nothing is better than that little smile and that giggle running around and having to chase her around. But just seeing like bringing her to like the soccer matches, and then we brought her to the women's soccer game and then the volleyball game after that, just seeing how welcoming everybody is and how much everybody just wants to be around her.
Sure.
It just continues to show just the family atmosphere that is here, and know that this is just a really special place.
How old is she now?
She'll be 2 in 2 weeks.
She's so little.
October 3rd.
Happy early birthday to her. That's
Thanks.
very exciting.
Yeah, I was actually the one that had to joke around when I found out what the due date was going to be. I was like, oh, Mean Girls Day. And my wife was like, what are you talking about?
I love that.
October 3rd.
In an interview with the DePaul, you talked about how you began recruiting with a talent threshold. How would you define that talent threshold?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a certain physical ability, technical ability, and then a tactical understanding of the game. And as the years have gone on, we've kind of raised that kind of threshold of like, okay, like maybe a couple years ago, we would have recruited that kid. But we're at a point now where like our goal is to challenge for a Big East championship, and so we really have to be picky about it because we think we have the culture in place that any kid that comes in, they're going to be surrounded by the right guys that are going to kind of keep them in line. And it's good for you to learn from each other, whether it's on the field, off the field. You always take in the habits of the people that you're around the most. And we're really confident in the culture that we have, that our guys are always going to do the right things. Now we just add a few more talented guys in there.
Sure.
And I think you've seen that in the younger guys that have come in, and a bunch of them have started and played a lot this freshman year. A lot of the kids last year who are now sophomores are contributing a lot as sophomores and playing a lot. And so it's definitely been fun to see, and I think we're just really on the right track now.
You talk about kind of a young group of guys that you have, also a young coaching staff as well, Scott Bratt being one of them as associate head coach. What kind of impact and energy do those additions bring to the team?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's about balance in the coaching staff, and kind of knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. And Scott has like a tremendous understanding of the game and has really helped with our attack. So like we're scoring more goals than we ever have as a program. And so having him come in and really help on that side of things, while also knowing that him and Martine have the same values that I do, and we have the same vision of like what we want the experience to be like for our guys and how we want to treat them and how we want to coach them. And the first thing is just kind of developing the relationship first and establishing that level of trust so that you can really coach them. So we'll be a little bit softer on them in the beginning just to kind of show like, hey, we're here, we care about you. My old coach at Northwestern, when I worked with him, when I first got there, one of the first things he said to me is like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I've kind of always taken that with me, where anybody new that I meet, they have to know that I care first before I try to educate them on anything.
Love that. And you probably bring that mindset into your recruiting as well. How has that changed over the years?
Yeah, I think our recruiting stuff has been a lot the same because I just kind of talk like this and just kind of share with them who I am, what my values are. And we're rarely even talking about soccer because we only spend a couple hours a day, with them for soccer. But at the other end of it, we spend so much time looking after them academically, socially, just as human beings. And so soccer is what brings us together and like why we get to meet the recruits and amazing people that we do. But ultimately, the parents and the kid are going to choose the people that they trust the most. And I feel like if you express who you are as a human being and kind of open the door for them, they definitely accept you and kind of buy into what you're doing.
I want to get back into this past spring. Your team spent a lot of time with the youth of urban initiatives. Why is that a priority of your program to give back to the community in that way?
Yeah, I think it goes to what I've talked about of just like we're here helping to mold people and have them care about others and not just focus on like, I'm here to play soccer and that's it. You're here to be a student, you're here to be an athlete, and you're here to give back to the community and care about others. And that's one of the values of this program. And so Urban Initiatives is a program that I got involved with when I was in college and then after college as well. And my wife actually got involved and has been really involved with it the last few years. We've gone to like the soccer ball and have really enjoyed it. And it's just an organization that does some amazing things of just helping kids in the inner city use soccer as a vehicle to help kind of develop future leaders and help these kids kind of realize and go onto a path of maybe going more into school and going into college and seeing that can be a path for them. And so it just keeps them on the progress of, teaching them how to be leaders and how to be decision makers in their community and not just following around.
Sure. And when you see your student athletes, those young men in the community doing those types of things and being role models for younger students and just anyone in the community, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the best thing. Like when you see them kind of at their core of just who they are, when they're just playing soccer for fun and it doesn't mean anything, they're not being coached, like you see these big smiles on their faces.
Yeah.
And when you see the way that they can affect a young kid's life, like something just special goes on about you, especially being a father now. And like my daughter's going to be going to some of that stuff. And just seeing like the smile that comes on her face when she's at these little soccer camps. It's a pretty special feeling that it gives these guys. And for me, I just hope that, they continue to do this like long after they kind of have to do it.
Right.
But the feedback is like, they always love it. They always have a great time and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. And I feel like if they do love it, they're going to do it without being told to do it. That's awesome. How do you feel the perception of this sport has changed since you were playing?
It's definitely, there are a lot more people that know a lot more about it, which I appreciate. Like now, people used to ask me why I played soccer or why I got into it. And now they're talking to me like, oh, like who's your Premier League team? Or like, did you see the Champions League game the other day?
Right.
Or like, when are we going to win a World Cup? Or like, what's Pulisic's deal? So like, they're actually like semi-fans now and like actually know who they can be talking about. So I think just like the growth of the game and the availability of it all has been a really cool thing that wasn't necessarily always there when I was growing up and when I was in high school and college. Like we used to have to find like illegal streams online to watch Champions League games, and now it's like everywhere that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. With more American players, you mentioned Pulisic and Tyler Adams, Matt Turner playing abroad, and kind of how the MLS has been rising here at home. What do you think that's doing for the sport and the growth of soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's growing the notoriety of it because these are now huge names that are now playing for massive clubs around the world that I think like growing up, you never really thought that would be a possibility for an American player. And so they've kind of like broke the barrier to show kids that like now they can do it. And now you're seeing like young kids going over there and signing when they're 16, 17 years old. And you have the 14-year-old Kevin Sullivan who's like making waves around the world as like the top 14-year-old in the world. And he's an American.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that they've kind of paved the way to show that there doesn't have to be a ceiling to this for American soccer, that we can really compete with the best of the best. And they're really paving the way for a lot of the young kids coming up.
How do you deal with the ebbs and flows of a season? Obviously these are student athletes, but they're young guys. So when they're down about a loss, how do you kind of ride the wave with them and get them back up to a level where they feel good?
It's always difficult because, as a coach, you ride it too. So I just keep reminding them, you can't let the highs get too high. You can't let the lows get too low. You just have to keep focusing on the process. And as whatever you fall back into with your habits and your process of how you compete in training every day, how you compete in games, and you always fall back to your training habits. And if you just embrace the process of it all, the results will come.
Yesterday, speaking of your guys, we asked your team to submit some burning questions for you, and we wanted to get to some of those. Now, we had an overwhelming amount of them they were all about how you found a girlfriend at DePaul, which is amazing. We know
awesome.
These guys want to find love.
That is amazing.
And how you knew she was the one, but I want to get to some of these questions from your team, all right?
Sure, yep.
Okay, first one. Coach, how do I get a missus in college because I need one so I can get a green card? That was verbatim.
I know exactly who that one's coming from. You be kind, you be open, you speak to people that you may not normally speak with, and when you're in kind of loud settings, you kind of, attach yourself to people to help them feel comforted and just be nice to them.
Yeah, and get lucky because a friend gets kicked out.
And get lucky because, somebody had a little bit too much fun.
Right. How did you know that she was the one? One of your players asked that.
It was just the connection we felt right away and just how easy conversations were, how supportive she was of my soccer life at that time. Because I think dating a student athlete is not always the easiest thing in the world because you're up early for practice or you have a game or you're traveling and your significant other isn't necessarily your number one priority at 19 years old.
Right.
But she quickly became that. And so just as I kind of felt it kind of throughout the years. I just kind of knew.
Yeah, she stuck it out.
Yeah.
Good for her.
She's a tough one. She's great.
What was your favorite thing to do on a weekend when you were in college at DePaul?
Yeah, I mean, we used to just kind of explore the different restaurants and stuff around Lincoln Park. When it was nice outside, we loved to go down to the beach and go down there and hang out. And then in the winter, this was when women's basketball used to play at McGrath Phillips Arena, and we were at every single women's basketball game, like in the first row, just screaming, because that was when like Allie Quigley was on the team, and they were like amazing. So it was a really fun group, and we were friends with them too. So like we always used to love going to those games.
So this might be a question for your friend, but one of your players asked, what was the most trouble you got into when you were here at DePaul?
I did get into trouble at some point with a few of my friends, and I was forced to sit out a game at one point, which was not the best part of my career, but I have been able to kind of use that experience to just teach our guys. Look, learn from my mistakes. And I'm open about the mistakes that I made as a student athlete. I was 18, 19-year-old.
Sure.
And I think it's important for them to hear from like real world experiences and to know that their coach is a human too. So I'm able to speak to them kind of on that level. And I think it's kind of kept some of our guys out of trouble for the most part.
I like that.
Yeah.
Little reverse psychology there.
Yeah.
What is your funniest college story?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Put you on the spot.
That is. Oh boy. This is kind of throwing another one of my friends under the bus, but we had our freshman year, we had to run the fitness test. And so we had to run it up on the track over at the Ray Meyer Fitness Center. And our coaches kind of mismeasured it. So no one on our team passed the test, even though I had passed it like a week before. And so afterwards, one of my buddies who was a goalkeeper at the time and was kind of not the fittest guy in the world, they had read off all of our times, and at the end of it, he had screamed out like, "Coach, I didn't get my time," and our coach proceeded to kind of like put him into a very small place.
Oh,
and
no.
All of us kind of still tell that story to this day.
You guys were like all shocked.
Yes.
Sweating.
Yeah, we're like, oh, and we're freshmen, just like bright-eyed. We're like, what just happened?
Yeah, because that would be scary.
Yeah.
How did you know that you wanted to be a coach, and what were the signs that you felt maybe when you were playing at a young age or at DePaul where you're like, okay, this could be the career for me?
Yeah, I remember I was on a walk with Blaze, who was my coach when I was here. We had to walk around the building. We couldn't walk through it because they're doing construction. And I was on a walk with him after practice, and I just asked him how he got into coaching, and he shared his story. And he was like, "Are you thinking about it?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "It seems like you're enjoying it, and you have a pretty good lifestyle, and being around the game is a lot of fun." And so he just encouraged me that like it's something that I should look into. And then I worked Northwestern soccer camps every single summer. Instead of getting internships, I would just play soccer and work camps. And the head coach at Northwestern, when I was a senior, asked me to come on and work on their staff. And that was kind of how I kind of got my foot into the door into college coaching. And I've just been fortunate enough that the door keeps opening at the right times, and I'm open to stepping my foot through it and just enjoying the experiance and getting after it.
That's great. Love hearing that. What would you do if you were not a soccer coach?
I think I would probably be a teacher of some sort. That was like the other path that I thought about. Like I always liked history and thought like being a history teacher and like a soccer coach would be pretty fun. I enjoy being around like college age kids or high school kids that you can like help them and support them, and because they're going through a lot all the time. And so I always enjoy being like a calm face and like a calm presence for them to help them go through whatever that they have to go through in their life.
Love it. Well, Coach Plotkin, thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Blue Demon Room podcast. Hope you had fun with us.
That was actually really fun.
Telling good stories.
Thank you so much.
We wish you all the best through the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Go Blue Demons.
Be sure to come out to Wish Field on September 28th to watch Coach Plotkin's squad take on Xavier at 2 p.m. We'll see you next time.